Welcome to the Joy Villa Show. Hello, Joy Tribe. Welcome to the Joy Villa Show. My name is Joy Villa, singer, songwriter. I hit #1 on Billboard. You know, I'm pro-God, pro-life, and pro-America. Today, I have a really special guest. He has been battling censorship, intense censorship. He has fought the erroneous claims that somebody else invented a very important thing that he invented, a little thing called email, and he won $1 million lawsuit, and he is running for Senate in Massachusetts against the fake Indian, the real Indian, Dr.SHIVA. Thank you so much for joining us
Great to be here, Joy. Yeah, just one correction. We ran against Elizabeth Warren last year. This time we're running against, it's okay, we're running against an equally sort of a guy who has no integrity. His name is Ed Markey. We call him Malarkey, and he's the one who supports the Green New Deal, which is based on fake science that CO2 is a pollutant, which it isn't.
Oh my goodness. And you're a scientist. I mean, you are a doctor, you're a scientist, you're highly regarded as one of the most intelligent voices today. You spoke up against Dr. Fauci, right? Tell me a little bit about that, because I know he's got a lot of malarkey and baloney as well.
Yeah, and I think, Joy, so because we had some limited time, let me just sort of condense my view with Fauci. And the reason I was able to confidently expose him right away was because of, fortunately, the training I got, not just at places like MIT, but, you know, when I grew up originally in India as a kid, came here as a 7-year-old immigrant. And I grew up in a world where my grandmother was a poor farmer, but she practiced traditional systems of medicine. So I saw this woman with no degrees heal people. So I was very interested in ancient systems of medicine. So when I came to the United States as a 7-year-old kid, I worked very hard. I settled in the working class towns of New Jersey. My parents kept moving to the better school systems. But when I was 14, I did invent the first email system, and this is black.
Ooh, that is hot. 14 years old.
Yeah, and the reason I did it, Joy, was because I started working. I got a job as a full-time research fellow.
Wow.
At what is now known as Rutgers Medical School in the heart of Newark, New Jersey.
Wow.
Where, nothing's supposed to come out of Newark according to the elites, right? But here was a kid.
That's just middle America. That's a flyover state, according to the elite.
Exactly.
Clinton, who notoriously called them flyover states publicly. So you were 14 years old. Now, when I was 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be an artist. I knew what I wanted to be. I believe in the power of children knowing what they want. And I think a lot of adults don't listen to them. When I was 11, I was designing things. I was 8 years old. I designed my first album cover. I'm doing everything that I wanted to do since I was 5 right now. That's awesome. I believe that at 14, you must have been looked at as just like a runt or how were you perceived when you started researching?
Well, the thing is, to your point, when I was 12, when I went back to India after 5 years of being here, that's when I realized the stark difference between India and here. My grandparents lived in a small hut. They had very little. So that's when I realized that I should make something of myself. And I remember leaving India, coming back the second time, and I said, if I don't do something with my life, I'll be a parasite. So that's when I decided to work hard. So like I said, by the time I was 14, I had finished calculus, gone to NYU on a special computer science program. And I wasn't just a nerd. I played baseball. I was a star pitcher, a soccer player. So it was the idea of doing both, right? And what I experienced in most of my life was people would try to bucket you. Well, if you can be good at you must not be able to throw a fastball, right? If you
Exactly.
Right.
Either your brains or your brawn, right? Yeah. In getting that, you must have been definitely seen as like, oh wait, you can't be good at all of it. And I love debunking that myth. Obviously, you are the epitome of the American dream. You've debunked the myth that you only have to stay in one lane and focus on that before you do something else. You're doing it all, including running for office. And I believe you're going to win. You've got massive support.
Well, we did win. We did win, Joy. What we've discovered is, the journey for me. The reason when you brought up the invention of email, I did invent email, and I just want to, because I know your producer wanted me to touch on this earlier, is email is not electronic messaging. I never said I created the exchange of text messages. That goes back to the telegraph. But it was a 14-year-old, American kid in Newark, New Jersey, who converted the old-fashioned interoffice mail system, inbox, outbox, folders, all that to the electronic version. I wrote 50,000 lines of code, named it email, created that term for that system, and got US copyright. There is no gray area on this. It's black and white. I invented email. The problem is I wasn't a PR guy. I didn't promote myself. It was only in 2011 when my dear mom was dying of a horrible disease in a suitcase. She had all those artifacts. The editor of Time magazine, the senior technology editor, took a view at this and he said, hey, you invented email. And he wrote an article called The Man Who Invented Email. Then it went into the Smithsonian 33 years later. And then all the liberal elites got so upset because it was like a new skull was found in Africa. That because the origin that they thought of email, which they had basically lied and made a fake history about, was from some bearded guy who looked like a nerd. You see, you have to look like something.
You didn't have the right look.
Exactly.
I mean, this is how racist and all the phobes that they call us as conservatives, they really have.
Exactly. And these are the liberal elites.
Insult because you're what? You're brown, you're 14, you're a kid.
And it was done
in the cool group.
Yeah, and Joy, it was done before MIT. You see? It was not done at MIT. It was not done at Stanford. And so that's the problem that they had with me. And the other problem was
the elite institution. They weren't involved in it, so thereby they're going to lie and pretend and steal your idea. I mean, it happens so often, but most people don't have the guts to fight against it like you do. And you had a lawsuit against them, and you won. It was is that right? It's $1 million.
Yes. So what happened was the person who defamed me was a media company called Gawker Media, which was really good that they were destroyed. They had, if you remember, it took me 4 years to find a lawyer who would take this on. They said, ha, 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 Al Gore. No, I said, I actually did invent email. Like I didn't make anything. So Charles Harder, who, by the way, became the personal attorney to the president. After our cases, Charles had just sued for Hulk Hogan because Gawker Media had called him, had put out this sex video on him. In my case, they called me all sorts of horrible names. They called me a fraud, a charlatan. 3 defamatory articles. So finally, Charles looked at the data and Charles said, oh my God, you invented email. We sued them. My lawsuit was 30 days later, they claimed bankruptcy. And the karma of it was not only did they have to give me close to $1 million, but they were forced to remove those 3 defamatory articles. And I was appointed the chairman of the bankruptcy committee to sell them to Univision. So it was a huge win, but none of the mainstream
win. A righteous win. How long was that fight? You said it took you 4 years.
4 years. 4 years. From 2012 to 2016 being, I mean, all my 4 degrees at MIT didn't mean anything because all these liberal elite racists, they're the real racists.
They're the real racists. Exactly.
As long as I was at MIT doing all those great things, I was on the front page after MIT. But before that, the thought of a 14-year-old dark-skinned Indian American kid inventing email in Newark does not compute for them.
They couldn't stand it. Like you said, they had to put someone who looks the part. And, being in Hollywood, I know how that casting, they cast somebody to steal it. And they thought, well, this kid's not going to fight back. I'm sure they judged you for your skin color. They judged you for your age. They judge you because you're an immigrant. All the things they say that we do, they actually do.
Exactly.
So I think it's crazy. I think a lot of my listeners, a lot of your listeners are going to be able to relate to that. I talk about that in my book, Kick-Ass Conservative. You have to stand up for your values. You have to go out there. You cannot let them win, no matter what it is. You can do it all. Just stay focused, use your ethics. And if you know that God has put you on a path, you need to go after that. So you're somebody who has a huge vision. I want to talk about you calling out Fauci, if you don't mind.
So the reason I was able to call out Fauci was if you look at my trajectory, when I worked in that medical school, I've been doing medical research. I mean, the invention of email on someone was a side effect, but I've been doing medical research since I was a 14-year-old kid. Came to MIT, ended up wanting to do medicine, but was very upset with the way medicine treated the body, not as a whole system. So went in and out of MIT, did 4 degrees.
Wow.
Engineering, mechanical engineering, design, and my PhD is in the field of biological engineering. So I'm considered one of the leading guys today on the immune system. And in November of 2019, I was asked to give the invited talk, what's called the Prestige Lecture at the National Science Foundation. And in that lecture, I basically shared, this is before the coronavirus, scam hit. And what I said was, look.
Pandemic.
Yeah, the immune system is a very complex system, and one size does not fit all. Now, all the engineers and the scientists got it. The notion of giving everyone the same vaccines doesn't make sense. So when Corona hit, I just saw it, and I did a tweet, I think in early March, if you look at it, which said, as an MIT PhD trained in biological engineering who studies the immune system every day, this will go down in history as one of the biggest fear-mongering hoaxes intended to suppress dissent,
Yes.
mandated medicine, and essentially, destroy economies. And then after that, that went viral, and I started doing videos every day because I realized I needed to train people to overcome this fear that a virus or a pathogen is not what kills you, and that Fauci was a complete fraud. Now you have to understand, Fauci built his career on fraud, which is basing that a pathogen or the boogeyman concept. He's the one who took over and helped this guy Robert Gallo, who created the HIV/AIDS connection. Which
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So Gallo was being brought up on charges for scientific misconduct. Gallo's so Fauci did round one with the AIDS HIV link, which
took credit for that, right? And he was not. It wasn't his. Is that right? I know. I saw Pandemic with Dr. Judy Moskowitz.
Well. The thing is, Judy has this wrong in some sense.
Okay.
The reality is, HIV does not cause AIDS. HIV is a virus. AIDS is suppression of the immune system. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And you can suppress your immune system many ways. You don't eat well. You basically are an IV drug user. But the goal is, what I was educating people, and the reason I was able to call it Fauci is because of my understanding of the immune system. We teach us this one singular thing, and everyone should listen to this. It's a weakened and dysfunctional immune system that overreacts. So you have you have 380 trillion viruses in you right now, 60 trillion bacteria. So all these viruses are trying to attack us. Now in a normal stage, your immune system senses it, reacts back to it, and modulates itself in a beautiful way. No different than if you have good shock absorbers on your car. You hit a bump, you don't just go all over the map, right? And it moves forward. A bad immune system is like having no shocks on your car. You hit a bump and you hurt yourself, okay?
Yeah.
So the issue here is boosting the immune system.
You're right.
And so these guys don't give a damn about boosting the immune system.
No, because if I may interject, I love that you talk about that, because you're a doctor who actually cares about people rather than a lot of westernized science right now, which is treating the symptoms rather than treating disease. I'm big on nutrition. I'm a vegan for 15 years. I work out all the time, like at least 5-6 days a week.
Wow.
I take B vitamins. I take multivitamins. I see a chiropractor.
It shows. You're very, very healthy and glowing.
Thank you. The last time I was sick is I did have coronavirus in January.
Yeah.
And that lasted for 3 awful days. But again, it was a flu. I'd never had the flu in my life. I never even get the yearly colds. But it was a very particularly cold, year back into 2019. And so January 2020, this year, I got coronavirus. I was having a big, huge New Year's Day party. I had like 50 people in my house. I went to go see my chiropractor, who's also my nutritionist, and he gave me some things to do and vitamins, and I was okay. But then I collapsed. 3 days I couldn't get out of bed. But then I had a bad cough and I was recovered. And nobody ever knew about the coronavirus at the time. It was a flu. We were calling it the monster flu. A lot of people had it. All of a sudden, boom, a few months later, we have this pandemic disease put on it when 99.9% of people will recover fine and not die. Just like
in a place like Massachusetts, for example, 92.9% of the people who died had pre-existing conditions. The average age was 25, and the life expectancy in Massachusetts is 80. So this whole thing has nothing to do with public health. Yes,
it's control.
Right. It's powerful. That's what, and
I know that, because we are the real woke. But I admire you so much, Dr. Shiva. I wanted to say something. You brought to attention the working conditions of India's largest scientific agency. That was a big deal. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So after I finished my PhD in 2007, I took a little bit of time to go to India to do a Fulbright because I wanted to connect Eastern and Western medicine.
Beautiful.
And I made a huge discovery there, which resulted in an institute called Systems Health. People want to go check it out. But more importantly, when I was about to leave India, the former Prime Minister of India, not the current one, asked me if I wanted to stay there for a few years to run one of the largest scientific institutions. And I said, sure. And what I discovered was massive corruption there. There were amazing scientists in India who weren't able to do their thing because they were still under the yoke of sort of feudalism. So I wrote a paper exposing that corruption, and under death threats, I had to leave India. It was quite extraordinary. I wrote an article in Nature, which was called "Why India, Innovation Demands Freedom: Why America Innovates and India May Never." So my point is that I've always been a fighter. So right now, when I'm running for U.S. Senate, the corruption I've found is we won the primary in Massachusetts. We won it in a landslide. We had 3,000 volunteers, 20,000 on signs, 20,000 bumper stickers. We raised $1.6 million. Our rhino opposition, which was anointed by Charlie Baker, who hates President Trump, who said he's not going to vote for president. This is the quote unquote Republican in Massachusetts.
He's a rhino. He's a Republican.
He's a rhino. He's basically a Democrat who found a fool to run against us just to stop us. And what we found was quite extraordinary, which is going to come out. Is that in the U.S. voting systems, Joy, they have it. First of all, we don't have voter ID or receipts. But more importantly, in the voting systems, if you and I are running, let's say you get 1,000 votes and I get 1,000 votes, there's a feature in the system called a weighted race feature, where they can multiply your votes by 2.5. So it's one vote is not 1-to-1. You get 2.5 votes for every one vote. And my votes can be cut in half by 0.5.
This is right. This is legal.
I'm telling you, if people we talk about Venezuela and Afghanistan and Iraq and Chile, the United States voting systems, so we won in Franklin County, which was all hand counted, but in every other county, we lost 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40. And don't get me wrong, this ain't racist. Here's a pasty-faced white guy. Don't take it the wrong way. He wins in Lawrence, Massachusetts, all Hispanic. He wins in the black ghettos, and he wins everywhere else. It's impossible. No law, no campaigning. So we just filed a $1.2 billion lawsuit against Secretary of State Galvin. And I was just in court today filing our restraining order because the Secretary of State, when I started sharing this on Twitter, contacted Twitter to have me shut it down. Forget Twitter for a second. This is the state intervening to stop my free speech. So we
absolutely interfering. Right. This is illegal.
It's absolutely illegal.
Murder, and people are just looking the other way. Democrats, the elite, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So you now have a lawsuit against.
We filed a lawsuit in federal court for two things. One is a restraining order because I have basically they shut me down for 14 days. They banned me, which is in a 39-day election. That's 40%.
That's right, and that's election interference. That's
election interference. But we filed on First Amendment grounds. Because the laws, you have to figure out how you tactically get in there. But there's a whole separate issue on election integrity. And the other thing is in the machine counted things people should understand. When you take your ballot and you put it for machine counting, it gets converted to what's called an image, a ballot image. No different than taking a picture. Then the machine counts it, not a human being in the hand counted. Well, if they turn on this feature called weighted race, our understanding is the ballot images get destroyed, because they don't want to leave a trail. So we issued a FOIA saying we want all the ballot images. And Massachusetts says we're prohibited from saving ballot images. And I said, show me the federal statute or your Massachusetts statutes. Nothing. They said, we saved the paper. I said, where are the ballot images? Those interactions, Joy, with this Secretary of State's office, I shared on Twitter. And immediately on September 25th, never have I been, to the best of my knowledge, ever been shut down off Twitter. Twitter, the Secretary of State contacted them. My videos on YouTube have been taken down, sharing about vitamin D3.
Oh my God.
But this is state intervention.
Yeah.
And Massachusetts is, in my opinion, the sewer that feeds the swamp. It's the elites.
Yeah.
You think about all of the evil gets innovated here, and then it gets proliferated everywhere. Between the 1 mile radius between MIT and Harvard are the global elites. They get trained here.
They get trained there. They get protected there. They get to stay there. It's disgusting. I mean, I'm so glad we have someone like you on our side fighting for righteousness, fighting for equality, true equality. And you're not stopping. You're bold. And you're brave, and I love having you on here. And I'm so glad that you could join us today. Is there anything you want to say? We got a few minutes.
Well, one thing I want to tell people.
We're going to have you on for a longer. I know that my Joy Tribe, my fans and followers love you. When I told them I was going to be interviewing you, I got a ton of emails and messages.
I apologize for the delay. I didn't mean to do that. It was some unfortunate.
That's okay.
But you're lovely, Joy. I really love your spirit. You're wonderful.
Thank you so much.
What people should understand is we cannot walk away from a fight. We come into this world naked and we leave with nothing. The only way to leave life is in a bold way. So when they stole the election from us, some people would get depressed, and this has happened. So we escalated it to a write-in campaign. Everyone can see that.
Wow, look at that.
And on the back of it, we're training people how they can write us in, right?
Good.
But the issue here is to build a movement beyond black and white, beyond left and right. It's really about building a movement to unite working people, because working people are the ones. And what President Trump did was he took a battering ram. I mean, look, he wasn't really quote unquote establishment Republican or establishment Democrat. He was Donald Trump. He was his essence who brought this, and he created an opportunity for people like me to even run. I never voted in my life until Trump ran.
No,
I didn't like it. Yeah, so I think
you didn't trust the elites, or you just weren't. You didn't like.
When I was 18 years old, I was always into politics. I was always an activist because I came from an untouchable caste background, and you're always trying to figure out why things. But I remember Jesse Jackson, who I thought was anti-establishment in 1984, sell out the entire movement to Walter Mondale, the lesser of two evils concept, which I never liked. So I ended up becoming an activist. There's a picture of me at my PhD graduation, U.S. out of Iraq. I made sure working people were organized at MIT. I've been a fighter. I never went into electoral politics because I thought both parties essentially served the same master. But when I saw Trump hammering away at the establishment of both heads of the establishment, I thought this guy's great. Registered voted, and then decided to run initially against Warren, and now against Markey. So,
But this is amazing. Well, you have our full support over here at Joy Villa Productions, and I want my followers to follow Dr. Shiva. I want all of you guys.
We got banned again on Twitter for 7 days because I hit the Secretary of State again.
Unbelievable. Now, are you suing Twitter as well?
We may. Okay. Yep. We may. So there's multiple.
They are so putrid. I mean, I know a lot of people wanted to sue Facebook, sue Twitter. Prager University tried to sue Facebook. It's hard because we are many voices, and they are one very protected entity.
Well, the thing I do want to leave people with is our campaign is based on truth, freedom, and health. But one of the things is freedom. As a technologist, the only way out of censorship is I've actually created 3 bills already. One of them is called the Digital Rights Act, the Citizen Science Act, and the Health Rights Act. But to your point on censorship, the Digital Rights Act says the only way out of this, it's going to sound initially weird to people, is there was an organization created to give us the infrastructure for our First Amendment. You know what that was? The Postal Service. The United States the 1792 Act, and the Postal Service wasn't just about letter. It was about providing an infrastructure. So I could send you a piece of communication. You could send one to me. And if anyone interfered, it was a 22-year sentence in prison. When the digital world came, frankly, the very stupid people at the Postal Service, they forgot their bigger mission, which was supposed to be the infrastructure for communication. In 1997, I told them, you guys should offer an infrastructure of public email, public YouTube, and Facebook. Because they can't stop that. So they didn't do their
town square. It's the town hall, right?
It's the town infrastructure.
You're right. And it should be regulated, even though I'm a conservative, you're conservative, right? We hate regulation, but that's something that should be regulated so that everyone can use it.
Right. And the Postal Service, up until 1970, 70% of the communications through postal mail was political mail. Left wing, right wing, Green Party. It was a very vibrant environment. Starting in 1997, when email volume overtook postal mail volume, that's when I met with Postal Service officials. And I said, you need to go back to your renewed idea of why the Postal Service was created by the founders. It was to be the public square.
Right.
They were supposed to provide public infrastructure. So there is a way out of it. And the only way out of it is the Postal Service to renew their original model to provide us public infrastructure. Now, you don't have to use them. Like, you don't have to use Postal Service, right? You can use FedEx or
provided.
Right. But they're supposed to provide.
What a great idea.
Right.
And it's not being provided now, and it's chaos. It's chaos.
Exactly. So you have 5 companies who control our communications. Verizon, AT&T, Twitter, Google, and Facebook. 5 people, 5 literal individuals can determine the course of what gets seen by the vast majority of people and what gets turned off.
That's awful. This is that one world government that controls. And people call it conspiracy theory. It's not a theory. It is a conspiracy, though.
Well, it's just the reality is, when you look at it, the public square has been destroyed since, and the Postal Service, which was a bunch of idiots run it. It was run by Franklin, who was an innovator, right? it's completely degenerated. But the Postal Service recognized that you and I and everyone listening, we were the press, and the Postal Service gave the infrastructure for all of us to communicate in a very low cost.
It's supposed to be for us, for the people, by the people.
Right.
It should not be interfered with at all. That's against our First Amendment rights. Well, I'm proud of you, Dr. Shiva, for doing all you're doing. You're fighting for all of us, because somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be the waymaker and be in the front lines. And I know you get attacked. I know you get as many racial slurs as I do. I'm sure you're getting it left, right, and center. But you have a strong base backing.
Well, most of those racial slurs come from the liberal elites,
I know.
Not from the white working class.
Never, exactly. Never has a Republic. I got asked, what about all the white supremacists at the Trump rallies? I said, where are they? I've never met, seen, or interacted with a white supremacist in the Republican Party. Yeah. But I've seen a lot of them that say, I can't be Black, I can't be Latina, I can't be a woman because of who I support. I get a lot of racial slurs from the left, and the left only.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think
please tell everybody where they can find you. I need everybody to follow you, subscribe, vote for you, sign up for your newsletter. Go for it.
Yeah, people should go on the campaign. People can go to Shiva, numeral4senate.com, Shiva4senate.com. Campaigns, we have people giving out millions of these cards. We have lawn signs, etc. We have amazing volunteers, 3,000 volunteers on the ground. If you want to know about me, you can go to Victor Alpha or Victory America, VA Shiva, SHIVA.com. You can go there to check that out. And then you can on Twitter, which I'm blocked for the next 5 days. I'm actually appealing it. Normally when they kick it off, I remove the tweets. That's at VA_Shiva, VA_Shiva. And then if people want to know any other things I'm doing, we have an institute called Systems Health, systemshealth.com. We offer amazing courses, and you can start understanding engineering systems principles integrated with Eastern and Western medicine.
Ooh,
and, that's what people should go check out. But thank you, Joy. I appreciate everything you do.
Absolutely. You as well. My brother on the front lines fighting for righteousness and freedom. Awesome. Well, thank you. We're going to do a more extended interview after the election, and I look forward to that. So thank you, Dr. Shiva.
Thank you. Best to you and all your viewers.
Thank you. Oh, and get your book, your new book, Your System, Your Life. Is that your new book behind you?
Well, one of the books that I recommend everyone is this book called it's called System and Revolution. What it teaches people is I take 40 years of MIT knowledge of understanding what a system is, but you can learn it in a very simplified way.
People gotta get that book. As an author myself, I'm like, get Kick-Ass Conservative and get all the books by Dr. Shiva on Amazon or go to vashiva.com. Is that right?
Yep, vashiva.com.
Perfect. Okay, we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Be well, Joy.
You too.
Yep. Bye-bye.